Today we're gonna be talking about one of the greatest sequels in horror, in my opinion, 28 Weeks Later. What's up everyone, welcome back to another video here on my channel Royal Horror. As always, I'm very pleased to have you with me talking about movies, talking about horror movies. I know you guys are busy, I know life is very difficult nowadays, especially nowadays, so it always makes me happy, and I will always appreciate when you click on one of my videos to spend time with me, relaxing, chilling and just vibing with horror movies. So are we ready for 28 years later to come out later on this week? Because I'm so ready for that movie, and I've already reviewed the original 28 Days Later a couple of days ago, and in today's video, as you read by the title, I'm gonna be reviewing its sequel from 2007, 28 Weeks Later. So if we start talking about my relationship with this movie, honestly, it has always been positive, and I didn't know this director so much. His name is Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. The only movie of his that I've watched in the past is a film called The Intruders from 2011, but this film obviously came out after 28 Weeks Later. So I like Intruders, very different to 28 Weeks, but obviously that's a topic for another video. So and the fact that this director is Spanish made me so happy, because like, come on, I love when foreign non-English speaker directors get these huge movies. That always makes me happy. So my relationship with this movie has always been positive. I've seen this movie like 3 times already. I've seen it, only the first 2 watches were on DVD when I used to own the DVD, and then my latest rewatch was on Blu-ray, the newest Blu-ray that it came out a few months ago. So I've always loved this movie. I always had a good positive relationship with it. I always say that this is one of the greatest sequels in horror, and I know that might sound unpopular because this movie is not that loved, surprisingly, even though this movie absolutely delivers, and we're gonna be talking about it on my review. Honestly, I gave this movie 4.5 stars, so I barely have any critique about this movie. I gave this movie almost a perfect score, so I don't have many negative things to say about this movie. Maybe the only negative things that I have to say about this movie is that I thought that this movie was gonna explain more of what happened before this virus came to place. So I really feel like this movie, it does feel like a sequel, you know, it doesn't really feel like a standalone film, and that might feel like a critique, you know, like if you watch this movie for the first time without knowing what its concept is, you might feel lost, and that's something that I'm okay with it, but obviously it's something that I have to critique, because even though I love sequels, I personally don't like it so much when they depend so heavily on the first film, and I think this movie is one of those cases. But you know what, that's the only critique that I have to give to this movie. So this review will be mostly positive because I absolutely love this movie. Obviously, if you have a different opinion to my opinion, that's fine. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on this movie, even though if you don't like it, if you gave it less than 4.5 stars, because I know that's a huge score. I would love to know why you don't feel the same way that I do about this movie, because that's the beauty of films in general, to get to know each other's opinions. So if we talk about the positives, quickly talking, I just want to say that I absolutely love how this movie is so devastating, it's so emotional, it's such an emotional roller coaster, like so many emotions in this movie, and I think even more emotions than in the first one. I love how in this movie there is a family involved. I love how characters that you didn't expect to die, they die. I loved the fact that there is so much emotions behind the kills, or behind like when the people in this movie are becoming zombies. Let's call them zombies even though they're infected. So to make this video easier, I'm just gonna call them zombies. So I just love how this movie just gave me so many emotions all at once. Like I could relate to these characters, like I could see myself in their shoes of what I would do if I would react the same, you know, because like these characters, the main characters, the 2 siblings, the fact that they thought that they had lost their mother, but that was not the truth, the fact that they lost their father due to the virus, the fact that they see their dead father, the dead mother, that's very heavy. The same with the father. If we think about it, I loved how much emotion was behind that opening scene where, you know, like he has to take a decision and he leaves his wife with a kid, with the infected people, with the zombies. That's pretty heavy. Like there's so many emotions behind this movie, and that's something that I really loved. Another positive aspect that I have to give to this movie is definitely the makeup department, because it's absolutely perfect. I loved the way the infected people look in this movie, the way the zombies look in this movie is insane. So much better than in the original, but I'm not saying that the original was not good, because that's also one of the greatest aspects from that movie. But in this movie, it looks so much richer. The blood looks insane. I don't know if it's because of the Blu-ray transfer, but it looked fantastic on my screen, and it's all thanks to that makeup department. There is so many scenes that I loved with the infected. For example, when the mother is at the hospital and she's fully infected, or when the father is transformed, and the blood, the eyes, the makeup in general, it was amazing. Another positive aspect that I have to give to this movie is honestly the storyline, the storytelling, the way that it develops. I love that this movie is taking place in the same universe, obviously 28 weeks later after the original, and I think that was incredible. I love that London is once again used as the main landscape in this movie, but I love that it's a completely different landscape. I love that this movie was shot in a more, you know, like, the buildings are different. It's mostly like you can tell that it's such a metropolitan rich city, even though it's going through hell. So I love that contrast. I like that it was not taking place in a neighborhood or on the countryside. I love that it was taking place in central London, like Canary Wharf, like one of the richest areas in the city. So I love that. I love that contrast, and I love the fact that this movie was very realistic, because this movie is taking place as when there is no government, but because the military services are taking over and are controlling everyone, like what they eat, how they move, where do they live, you know, like everyone is so controlled. So I really liked that social commentary, because again, if this gets to happen in real life, I wouldn't be surprised if what happens in this movie is how things will be solved in real life, if that makes sense. I think the action is one of the greatest things in this movie. Like, this movie is one of the greatest action and horror movies combined. I love the fact that the guy, I forgot his name, the actor, but he's from Marvel. I love his addition to this movie. I love the things that he does in this movie. He brings the action to like the characters that are around him into this movie. There is so much chaos, especially when just the infected, they get to infect everyone in that movie, and that whole scene where they have to try and shoot who is infected and who is not, and they just give up and they decide to shoot everyone anyways. That scene was very, very intense, and I absolutely loved it. And the action, and also if we go to the tense moments in this movie, they are insane too, especially because there is so many scenes where there is silence and the characters are in this like very quiet landscape, and out of nowhere the jump scare comes to you, which I really like the jump scares in this movie. For example, there is a few scenes where the kids are looking for their mother in their old house. That whole scene was fantastic because it's so silent. You don't really hear what the characters are saying or what they're doing, and then boom, you know, like that stuff starts to happen. So that was incredible. I also loved that hospital scene with the mother. That's one of my favorites. It's not my favorite scene in the movie, where the doctor, which is portrayed by the Insidious actress, which is another positive thing, because I really liked this addition of an actress in this movie. I think she brings so much personality to this character and this storyline. I loved that scene where she's trying to see how she can solve this issue, and then she sees the mother and she knows she's infected, but yet like she wants to keep her alive. And I just really liked how many surprises are in this movie, positive and negative. Like when you don't expect these characters to die and then they die and you feel for them. So I love when horror movies make me care about these characters, and I think in this movie that happens a lot, and I think that's something that I really appreciate. Okay, but how come I haven't talked about one of the greatest things from this movie, and it's the opening scene. That opening scene is incredible, one of the greatest opening scenes in horror. I love the way that it's developed. I love that we're just spending time with these characters, that it's been a while since these characters have been in the outside world. I love the whole communication between them, the vibes, and then when the chaos happens, it's absolutely brilliant. The sound design is perfect. The home invasion element works so well in that opening scene, and the way that the characters start to die because of the infected. Again, the emotions in that scene is incredible, and then the chase scenes with our main character. Oh, incredible opening. I really loved it, and I think it really added so much personality to the movie that we were about to watch. And just to conclude, I think just to summarize, I think my greatest positive aspect that I have to give to this movie is the social commentary against like the politics, the government, the military service, because I just love how this movie portrayed it, how controlled they can be over society even though they're going through hell, you know. And I loved how the movie portrayed it, how things don't really have a solution, they just have to be controlled. I think that was incredible, and I think it added so much to this movie because it really, especially now that we're currently living post-COVID, things hit differently, if you ask me. So the fact that we also had a scientist in the movie that was looking forward to find a solution for this disease and things like that, and nobody was really listening to her, nobody was really caring about her, that was incredible too. It was such a great social commentary. And overall, 28 Weeks Later really knew how to give this message of, even if you're going through chaos in your life, let's say when it comes to being infected through a virus like in COVID, like we were going through COVID, you will never feel peace, if that makes sense. And I think that's such a devastating message, the fact that we will never be able to find peace even though we're going through this huge catastrophe. That makes a lot of sense, especially with things that we're going through at the moment. So 28 Weeks Later was really kind of ahead of its time, if you ask me. So yeah, but yes, that's more or less how I feel about 28 Weeks Later. And this is a movie that I really love. This is a movie that I really look forward to rewatch because I love everything about it. I don't have any critics about it. I really like the makeup, the sound design. I love the social commentary, the action-packed, the characters, the emotions, how devastating it is, how human, how emotional, how sentimental. Like, this is a really great action-packed horror movie, almost perfect horror movie. So let me know in the comment section below, or let me know over social media, how do you feel about 28 Weeks Later? I would love to hear your opinions, to read your opinions about this movie, because it really is one of those movies that is not really much loved in the community, but I would love to know why. So do you like this movie? Don't you like this movie? And why? Let's chat in the comments about films, about horror films. And with this concludes my 28 reviews. Obviously it was just 2 films, so it's not a big deal, but I'm so excited for 28 Years Later, which I'm gonna be fully reviewing, and maybe doing my ranking of the trilogy before the 2 new movies comes out. And stay tuned for my content, because the next franchise that I'm gonna be reviewing before the new one comes out, it's I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I'm gonna be reviewing the original, the sequel, the 3rd film, and the TV series. So stay tuned for that content coming out very soon. But for now, take care of yourselves. I really hope you have a nice end of the day. I really hope you have a nice end of the week. We will talk so soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.